This Friday, September 13th, it is going to be a fun show, man. Our executive producer, Brendan Martin, in the control room. Lot to talk about today, man. Already getting a lot of requests. We're going to talk about that Mizzou Boston.
I'm not doing any covers today, so no cover requests. I don't do cover songs today on Friday. Only originals.
Only originals. I like that. Hey, let me just say, look at this. Look at this turtle box right here, folks. Get this at hewlettandunn.com. This is Audrey's. She's got her own now. It's orange. If you're in Auburn, a Gator fan, these things are unbelievable. They can fall in the water and they will not stop playing music. So get it at hewlettandunn.com.
Let me
tell y'all. And you know what? We got a lot to talk about. Jason Caldwell, Auburn Undercover, batting in the leadoff position. Doug Dean in Birmingham. Frank Duffy, Mr. LSU Tiger. Go Tigers. Ken Capps on at about half past the hour. Talking Texas, OU, A&M. We're going to cover the SEC 1 through 16. We're blessed to do this every day. Got the best team, sponsors, family, community.
Pen and paper. Let's go.
Pen and paper handy. Smash that subscribe button. Here we come. Let's go.
Sidelines with Rob Brown. Talk sporty to me.
All right, man. What a panel this morning. Doug Dean, are you there? Okay. Doug Dean, Frank Duffy.
Here, I'll turn it up for you, Doug. Here, wake up, Doug. There it is. Yeah, get it.
Go. Brendan Martin, Frank Duffy, Jason Caldwell, Auburn Undercover. Jason, didn't work out well last weekend for the Tigers. I'm wearing my Tumors, it's called The Corner shirt that I got at Hewlett and Dunn. Let's get your thoughts on what we saw last week and what they've got to do better, because we had a head football coach, Bryant Vincent from ULM, on with John Hartwell yesterday. He was the offensive coordinator at New Mexico last year. They did a monumental shift on the upside with the offense, and they've got some players, and you can't take anybody lightly, especially teams from New Mexico if you're Auburn, the way Auburn's played the last year and a half.
Yeah, no, well, first thing is you can't turn it over 5 times no matter who you play. That's the easy answer, and the most obvious one. You just can't turn it over. And then I don't know how many plays, it's easily more than 10 in my opinion, that there were guys open and there were plays to be made that just weren't made. People have talked about offensive line. Honestly, I thought the offensive line was okay except for a couple of plays. Even on one of those, I thought the ball could have been out of Peyton Thorne's hands. And so that's the question now. There's other questions, but the question is, what's the quarterback position going to look like Saturday? I believe we'll see Hank Brown. Will he start? I don't know. I think he'll play early, but I think we're going to see Hank Brown for sure on Saturday. To what extent, that remains to be seen. But no matter who the quarterback is, Hugh Freeze has talked about it this week. I think you'll see him back off of the full bore RPO. I think you're going to have to take some of that out of the quarterback's hands and narrow things down a little bit and see what you got.
Well, I remember talking to an Auburn coach when Jeremy Johnson was there, and he said, Jeremy, a lot of times from the huddle to, calling the play, he had extreme anxiety. Peyton Thorne doesn't seem like he's a real uptight guy. Jason, you've seen a lot of quarterbacks play at Auburn. You think that Auburn can win 9 games this year with him? And if so, where is it going to come from?
Yeah, the first thing is if you just don't turn it over Saturday, then you still win the football game. Cal's offense after the first quarter did nothing. They had touchdown drives of 36 and 21 yards. That's how they won the football game. And You drop an interception that should have been, should have been a walk-in pick six. And so there's things that weren't done. But yeah, but to do those things as an offense, to not turn it over, you have to make the right decisions.
Yeah.
Because the turnovers were made because of wrong decisions. Now, even still, I thought a couple of those throws, the one at the end of the game, was just kind of a throwaway. The last one, you're just trying to make a play with 20 seconds after or whatever. But the ball to Cam that was underthrown. That ball wasn't thrown in a place where your 6'3" guy's going to go get it. Went off his hands early. I thought wasn't placed very well. There were a couple of situations. So, Hugh Freeze has made no bones about it. Peyton Thorne's a guy. He's got to play better. You got to have better than that. And people have asked about Hank Brown, all these things, and there's been no question that Peyton Thorne has been the best guy heading into the season. But he should be the best guy because he's played football for 5 years. Those things can be one and the same. Now you have to answer, is he the best guy on Saturday?
Yeah. And
last week was the first chance with players around him to see if that's the case. And last Saturday, it didn't show up that way. And so, now you have to take a deep breath and another deep dive.
Doug? Yeah.
Jason, good morning. Love your work recruiting and breaking down games like you're doing right now. And, I'm old enough to have cut my teeth on what I thought were just unshakable philosophies, and one in particular, that when you're the head football coach, as game week approaches, you have one job, and that's to put a game plan in that gives your team the best chance to win. And my question to you, Jason, it's uncomfortable to answer because we're sort of reading the mind of Hugh Freeze, is some believe that with recruits that are watching, Deuce Knight especially, but not just him, that there's an influence in your game plan of what's going to look good to these potential high 4 or 5-star skill players who the wide receivers want to see you airing it out all the time because that goes to how many touches they get. And a lot of quarterbacks don't want to see you grinding it out, running the ball. And I think Auburn comes into that game running heavy, setting up play action, a little less of the RPO, like you said, that maybe it's a different game.
It got cut off. I don't.
Hugh Freeze's thinking.
No, I don't. They ran the ball on first down, the first play of the game, got 1 yard. So your second 9, you're basically put yourself in a pass situation already.
Yep.
And then they throw the ball down the field and score a touchdown. The second possession, you run the ball on first down. You get 7 yards, but you get a 15-yard penalty. So you're first and 22. So you're in a passing situation again. The third possession, you run the ball on first down, you lose a yard. You're second 11. You're in passing situations again. And so that was as much as anything. You also had 3 possessions where you had the ball 3 plays or fewer. 2 of those you turned it over on the first play of a possession. One of those was a run and a fumble. So I think situation, like my pastor says all the time, context matters. Context matters when you look at how a game's played out too. They were backed up on their own goal line. They ran it off the goal line a couple of those times. But sooner or later you go, well, can we run the ball 22 times and have a 98-play drive? A 98-yard drive. You're not going to do that. We talked about it last week. As an offense, you have, if you're going to be successful in anything, you have to take, from a number standpoint, what the defense gives you. And so if you're sitting there and they're going, look, there's 7 guys in there, that means you throw the football. Well, you have to execute it no matter what you do, because you're not going to run the football and just over and over again go, it don't matter who it is, we can just run it. Well, sooner or later, you're going to have to throw it. And so I thought early on they ran a couple times and ended up in long yardage situations. And you look at it then, by the time you look, they only had 4 possessions in the first half. That was the first 3. The fourth one was the 2-minute drill. So,
and it was kind of on the defense to not get some 3 and out, get some stops that makes the first half
correct.
difference.
Yeah, a couple more possessions, and you just don't have many plays. And so when that's the case, and because of circumstances, I think it took some of the running game out of there. Really, the long run they had was on the 2-minute drill where you're backed up off your goal line. And then Peyton Thorne had a couple of runs here or there, but They just didn't have many opportunities to go and go. They were just going to start to run the football. Field position, turnovers, both those things really worked against it.
Every fan wants to. I think there's a lot to like about Hank Brown, but one of the things we don't have is body of work and a sample size that's at the SEC college level. I'm not second guessing how he'll do, but he if Hank does go in, he deserves some time from fans and coaches. He'll get that from the coaches to get through the hard knocks, and we've got to be prepared for some the redshirt freshman mistakes. If there's one play I have a feeling that may weigh heavy on Hugh Freeze's mind and Derek Nix as relates to how much more leash do they give Peyton Thorne, it's a little, for a fifth-year senior, a little bit unforgivable. Hugh Freeze said on that deep ball, 4th and 2 going deep, that was Peyton getting greedy. I read into that. Tell me if I'm going too far, that was not called, and I was screaming at the television that you would throw deep on a 4th and 2. If you hit it, everybody says, oh, boy, that was brilliant. But that was maybe Peyton going rogue on a play. So that goes to judgment, situational judgment. And don't you think that calls for seeing a lot of Hank Brown fairly early in the game?
Yeah, I think it's just decision making as much as anything. Going rogue would be, hey, I'm not running the play you called. I'm calling my own play. There was a route. This was part of the route tree on that play, but I don't think it was the first option. And so I think that's what you come back to. Your first option is the guy where you get your first down. And so I think, they have talked about, hey, if you see those guys in one-on-one situations, then we're going to take those. But as a guy that's played a ton of football, you also look, I got a guy open right here. But if you don't see him, then that's, to me, that's the other part of this thing. I just don't know that it was, hey, I'm not going to throw it to this guy. I think he was, hey, I'm going to take this shot, and that's what I want to do in terms of this particular play. But going back to Hank Brown a little bit, the unknown is part of it. You trust what you've seen and what you have, and you go back to certain situations in the past. If Drew Bledsoe doesn't get hurt, we probably don't even know who Tom Brady is. I mean, he would not have been a guy that other teams said, let's go get that guy because he's a great player. No, you look at him and go, yeah, he's kind of slow, got a pretty good arm, but you never would have seen what Tom Brady is had a door not been opened up. And I think you see Brock Purdy, other guys. There's guys that have been successful in football at the quarterback position that weren't the most dynamic of athletes. Yeah. And that's the part you look at this one going, Peyton Thorne is an above average runner. Yeah. And so if you move Hank Brown, you're not going to have as good a runner. You might have to tweak some things to do offensively. But you've got weapons outside. If you can find somebody to get the ball in the hands of those players, a la Brock Purdy, then you don't need to have as much of a runner. So that's the thing that I think Saturday I want to see is who can execute an offense. 3rd and 5, find me an 8-yard route and get a first down. To do those things and find the open players and kind of get into a rhythm, no matter which one of those guys it is.
Frank, jump in here. You LSU fans are very patient when things go like this.
Well, Jason and Doug, I think you guys are right. I think it comes down to decision making. I mean, I think we can all agree Peyton Thorne has the physical attributes to be a great college quarterback, honestly. But again, it's making that decision and the run pass option. It really places it on there. I mean, what really could Hugh Freeze do to coach him up in that, Jason? I mean, what do you see that could be said going into Game 3 that hasn't already been said in the 5 years leading up to this?
Yeah, I think that's the situation is because you've talked about it all the way through going, look, there's things he's done. He's been the best. His decision making, we talked to coach and said, look, he knows the offense inside and out. But if you can't carry that to Saturday, then it doesn't matter. And so I think that's the thing. I think from a coaching standpoint, I think they felt like, hey, he's prepared to go out there. He knows the answers to the questions, all those things. But then if you just mark C every time, then it doesn't matter. And so that's the big question, I think. And saw somebody said, look, can he get past his first option? I did not think the offensive line was terrible. I thought there were a couple of situations. But again, if it's 3rd and 9, 3rd and 10, 3rd and 11 every possession, you're not going to be very good. No. And so that comes back to decision making and being able to execute in some plays. And like you don't have a 4th and 2. Rivaldo Fairweather should have caught the 3rd and 2 ball, but it was a little behind him. It could have been thrown better. So it's not all on the quarterback. Offensive line, the injury to Too Tall Miller had an impact there, but I thought they played well enough. I don't think it was disastrous. Disastrous was Clemson 2017, where you get sacked about a dozen times. That's not what we saw Saturday. Thought there were opportunities for plays to be made, and just weren't made.
And like you said, that some sacks are on the quarterback, aren't they, Jason?
Yeah, and again, I thought the interception, his arm gets hit, but honestly, I thought that ball could have and should have been out of his hand already. And so you look and go, you go half a second is monumental when you're talking about the things that happen in a passing game and in an offense. And I thought there were some of those situations. And here's the other part of it. Sometimes as a quarterback, you're called on to stand in there, deliver the football, even though you know you're going to get hit. And I think that's something that we haven't seen. And it was something that it was the one thing that Bo Nix probably had to learn more than anything too. But he didn't have as many guys outside. There's more guys outside now. You're going to have somebody open pretty much all the time, at least one guy. But it may require standing in there and taking a shot and not trying to escape and go make a play. And I think in this offense, you got to see more of that. This is not a scramble, go find a play, Nick Marshall 2013 passing. Yeah. This is one where you have guys running routes. They're going to create some separation. You're called on to deliver the football.
I have a friend who played college golf at Auburn, and he used the analogy. All analogies limp; they're rarely perfect. But he said, "I've known golfers, and I've been this myself before. In practice, leading up to a tournament, I could drain 100 straight 3-foot putts, but sometimes in the back nine to close out a tournament, I would try a 3-foot putt to win it and miss the entire hole." So that's Peyton Thorne's apparent issue. It's not that he can't overcome it, but it seems to call more for sports psychology than it does looking at game film.
Yeah, and to be quite honest, it's one of those things that you're either calm in those moments or you're not. It's hard to go, okay, well, hey, I'm gonna be better. I don't know if that's what it was. Maybe it was a situation of, hey, we've talked so much about throwing the ball down the field that we got him locked onto that. And maybe it's as simple as, look, let's go back and rearrange the way we think about, this team and this offense and this passing game. So it might be as simple as that. But like I said, no matter what, I think you're going to see a scaled down offense. I think you're going to see less decision making at the line of scrimmage from the quarterbacks. And I think because you can talk to a quarterback now, it won't be surprising to me to see more tempo, get to the line of scrimmage where you can still talk, especially if it's Hank Brown. You can still talk to somebody and show them, hey, here's what I'm seeing here. Here's something to watch out for inside that 15-second window.
One more question before you go. I know you got a busy day. Recruits. Auburn sitting there number 5 in the country in this class. The class of 26 at number 1. A lot of guys were there. Deuce Knight was there. I think he's coming back for the Oklahoma game. And we want you to definitely come out on the set. We're going to do the show live there Saturday morning, the morning of the Oklahoma game from 8 till about 9:15. So you definitely got to be there, Jason, because you're a huge part of everything we do covering Auburn and college football. We can't thank you enough. But where do we stand, and how's that group? I know you talk to them and go to more games than about anybody.
Yeah, no, one game, people have asked, how's it impact recruiting? One game won't impact recruiting. Yeah. Now, if you have a few more of them, it could, and it probably would. But one game, I mean, if you're Deuce Knight, all you got to do is get home and turn on the TV, and Notre Dame had a worse loss than Auburn did Saturday, and that's where he's committed. So one game doesn't have a true impact on things, and one game won't have an impact on the class. Now, a couple more could have an impact on an individual or two.
Yeah.
But it would take, a serious issue to see a class, because all these guys were committed when Auburn won 6 games.
Yeah.
So I think they still know, and they've seen it. Look, there's still some serious holes, and people think that in this world of transfer portal that you can snap your fingers and all of a sudden you're going to have a roster that rivals, Alabama and Georgia. I can tell you, Saturday being on the field, there was no difference between Cal's line of scrimmage and Auburn's.
Yeah.
Still none. Now, Auburn's just better than it would have been, but Cal's line of scrimmage and Auburn's line of scrimmage, not much difference. Auburn's skill positions were probably better, but they're also freshmen and sophomores, and Cal's were fifth-year seniors.
Yeah.
So those are things you're still chasing, and I think kids see that. You need to show improvement, absolutely, but I think they still see that this thing still got some growing to do.
Jason, in my newsletter this week, the perfect cartoon I thought to include was the Far Side, Gary Larson, and it pictures this condemned sinner at the gates of hell, and there's one door says, "Damned if you do," the other door, "Damned if you don't." Come on, you got to pick one, the devil says, and that's Hugh Freeze's position. If he plays Hank, if he started Hank, and Hank looks good, but you're going to look good against New Mexico's defense, most likely. I think this game's more useful for our defense, because this is a very good New Mexico offense if we're not careful. So Hank may look good, and then you're starting him, but if he suffers and has a tough go against Arkansas, or we were to lose that game, then you've got a really tough decision. Do you go back to Peyton Thorne? So there's a lot of damned if you do and damned if you don't. And then the other one that no one likes to think about, but it's probably reality. If Hank Brown really lights it up and he looks like, wow, we've got our starter next year, then that's great. I'll celebrate that. Anybody in their right mind should celebrate it. It's a good problem. It's not a problem. It's a great thing. But it might make it a little trickier recruiting a highly rated QB who thinks he can come in and get playing time as a freshman.
Yeah, I don't think it would impact recruiting very much. Those guys always believe they're going to come in and be the best guy. And if you don't recruit a guy like that, then you're recruiting the wrong guy. And so,
good point.
The other part of it is about danged if you do, danged if you don't. The greatest coach of all time benched his starting quarterback last year.
Yep.
Dale Milroe did not play a single snap against USF.
Yep.
Came back, played pretty well.
Yeah.
So it's happened before. It'll happen again.
Good point.
Maybe it won't happen here, but Dale Milroe was not very good early last season.
No.
Once they tweaked some things to go, okay, maybe we need to figure out what he does the best and how to use it.
It may be that a near-death experience would jar Peyton into performing.
You never know. But the thing here's the thing you do. If you believe he is absolutely not the guy, we're eventually going to be to Hank Brown. The old saying is that what must be done today. Then I think if you think Hank Brown is the guy, then you need to prepare him as much as possible to get ready to be the guy at some point this season.
I agree. Jason, let people know how they can follow you and keep up with you. And I agree with you about recruiting. It's not one game, but if it's a trend, that's what you got to watch out for. So fans, remember, behave yourselves in the stands. Think about if that's your own kid out there, if you're going to boo them. But then again, I know they're getting paid money. People are coming up with every reason why to, but you better think about what recruits are seeing, because it has an impact.
Yeah, you can check us out, auburnundercover.com, part of 24/7 network. Follow our YouTube stuff at Auburn Undercover. You can subscribe there free and get all of our videos and all those things as well. And so be full bore, head on the road tonight, Auburn Enterprise. Hopefully the rain stays away. So big game down there in the Wiregrass. And then tomorrow night, back at it.
Hey, nobody covers high school football like you. Thanks. We'll see you next week.
Thanks, guys.
All right, hey, let me say something about this stuff right here. This is something I bought at the Vitamin Shop. It's a prebiotic. I'm going to tell you something. Order it from the Vitamin Shop. Got the QR code. Oxford, Mississippi, and Olive Branch, Mississippi. If you put this stuff in your coffee in the morning, it works in fighting gut bacteria and really keeps your stomach from bloating after a lot of the food that we eat. Just think about that. But doctor-formulated organic fiber Garden of Life at the Vitamin Shop. Oxford, Mississippi, and Olive Branch. Order that along with all the other great products that they have. And remember, if you got to move anything across the country, full truckload, less than truckload, vans, corn, seed, steel, cables, steel coils, even ductile pipe from places like Birmingham. They move a lot of that around the country. Coolmore Logistics and Transportation. I know Robert Weaver and John Dickin. This company's a couple of years old. Ain't nobody going to outwork these guys. They've got a great core group of drivers. They also have a depth chart, man, a lot of 2s and 3s. And once an order comes in and you say you've got to move something from Atlanta to Las Vegas, bam, they put the word out, their phones blow up, and they get the drivers and they follow through. And these guys were in Lubbock, Texas this week on a big cotton broker that they work with. They're going down to New Orleans this morning to visit the port, Frank, about a group from Memphis. But proud to have them as a sponsor. And Charles Hall will check in later from Hewlett and Dunn. But check out all of our sponsors at sidelines.live. Ken Capps joins us from the Hook'em Hut. Well, I don't know if Frank, Brendan, Doug, what happened last weekend in the big house is Bevo went up there and ran everybody into Lake Michigan, didn't he?
It's exactly what we said, what most of us said was going to happen. Now, Ken hedged his bet saying it's either going to be this or it's going to be that. Unfair, Ken. But no, I think Ken knew he was careful as a Longhorn voice to not sound like he's giving locker room press motivational material to Michigan, because they rarely lose in the big house. But I felt great about Texas going into this season, and they only made me more confident that I think Texas may have 1 or 2 losses, but I think Texas is going to win the SEC.
Well, I tell you, it was, like I really thought that Michigan would play better. Let's just put it that way. And on that first drive, when Texas is marching down the field, they have 3 penalties, and then Bert Auburn misses that chip shot field goal for him. And I was thinking, oh well, here we go again. And then Quinn Ewers just took control of the game. And Texas is like 6 wide receivers deep. And everybody's catching the ball, the wide receivers, the running backs out of the backfield. And of course, what's really impressed everybody in the state of Texas this year and across the Longhorn Nation is the Texas D. And and especially the secondary, because think about it. If Texas doesn't lose in the last seconds to Oklahoma last year because of a Dylan Gabriel march down the field, and if it didn't lose in the last play of the game to Washington last year in the Sugar Bowl, they could have been undefeated and played Michigan in the national championship. And so it's been the secondary that has been the weak point, and the secondary has been playing so much better, not only against the pass but against the run. And I was just surprised that Texas didn't score more points in the second half. But nobody down in Austin is complaining at all. And but this week Texas has UT San Antonio, and Oklahoma has Tulane at home. And so a lot of people are saying, hey, this is trap week 3, because even though Oklahoma and Texas are heavily favored, neither one of these teams are slouches. And in fact, Sark even was very blunt about it to his team this week. He said, guys, let's not be Notre Dame. And after what happened last week, everybody knows what that means.
Yeah, 28.5-point home favorite, and you get beat. That's the third time they've been a double-digit home favorite under Marcus Freeman. Remember, they lost 22-point favorite to Marshall, 16.5 at home to Stanford. All right, let's get to some games here. I hope Duffy is going to be able to jump back on. And I'm going to start with Doug.
His audio's all crappy.
Okay. He said he may have to jump.
No, because it's all squirrely. I got to write it. I don't know. He's got some other Bluetooth.
Yeah,
thing.
he's on his. I know he's on his way.
He's
on his way to Charlotte, and he said, "Hey, I may have to bail." But let's look at some games. I want to start, Doug. Let's start with, because you've got some awesome notes, Ken, and we're going to get to them. Alabama goes to Wisconsin, Doug, and guys, the peninsula, that's an actual home game. What do you think is going to happen, Doug? And then you can jump in here. And Brendan, if you pick your picks, but there's a bunch of games we want to cover.
Preface it by saying that I have not. I've not done detailed, film study of Wisconsin and my body of work on, but I know a lot about Coach Fickle, and he's to be taken seriously, putting it mildly.
No.
But with Alabama's defense, I think is for real, which surprises no one. They weren't perfect in it, in that game against USF. That quarterback lining up and just without any element of surprise, running north and south straight downhill at Alabama. I was a little surprised they were gashing them for pretty big yardage at times. Maybe the defense got a little tired, but I think the question mark going in is can Jalen Milroe take the next step to be able to play more mistake-free? Now, he didn't get some help from his O-lineman, they got quite a few holding calls, which is surprising in the SEC. Yeah. Usually they let them play, if you will. So, but what USF did, and I don't think Wisconsin's built this way, on the edge rushing, they had a couple of these 215, 220, light but really quick guys on the edge, and you don't see that very often in the SEC because those guys, that same size body, can get mashed and you can run the ball easily on them. But that's what USF did, and it caused Alabama a lot of problems with protection. So going to Wisconsin, I think Wisconsin is going to have a hard time getting past 21 points, if that. And the question is going to be, can Wisconsin themselves play enough defense? I'm not sure they can to hold Alabama, to make it a kind of an ugly, low-scoring game. But I like Alabama. You know the line in that one, Rob? I don't have it in front of me.
I'm not looking at the line.
Doesn't matter.
Yeah.
I like Alabama, maybe by 10. An interesting game, not necessarily a runaway, but Alabama's got more explosive players to go to on offense.
Most
one
definitely.
Of which, Ryan Williams, is a load to deal with. True freshman.
Wow.
Hugh Freeze almost landed, but I know Alabama's glad to have him in the mix.
Well, I think I got Alabama winning 31-14. I think it'll be a struggle early. Ken, talk about that game and that OU Tulane game, because John Summerall, came from Troy to Tulane, and then Willie Fritz goes from Tulane to Houston. And by the way, guys, last night I'm talking to Franz Beard after the Buddy Martin show, man. They had an awesome show Thursday night, orangeandbluebloods.com. And we're watching Arizona State at Texas State in San Marcos.
Yeah, isn't that great?
That guys, I'm going to tell you what, treat yourself. I know we're myopically focused on who's going to be in the playoff. Just enjoy the damn games, because the Bobcats and Kenny Dillingham at Arizona State, we know about him at Memphis and Auburn, at Florida State, Oregon. Yeah, Dilly. Celebrate college football, Ken. Hook 'em.
Well, I tell you, San Marcos, where Texas State sits smack dab between Austin and San Antonio, and is a great, great little college town. Well, it's not little anymore.
Yeah, and 40,000 students.
Yeah, and that's where everybody from Austin and around the state go tubing in the summer. And a great place, to get on the river, get you a big old inner tube, have you a cooler of beer trailing you. You get on the Comal River, you get on the Guadalupe River. But man,
get yourself some Shiner Bach and go down the river with all your mates.
That is,
right?
that's pretty much, yeah. Y'all, the three of y'all would be perfect on that river,
Yeah.
And but J.W. Kinney has that team playing great, and of course I watched that game, and man, Arizona State was on the ropes that whole game, and they played in Texas State played in their first bowl game last year up here in the Metroplex. And remember, they're the ones that they were playing in the First Responders Bowl up in Frisco, and their fans were so excited they drank the entire bowl out of beer by halftime. So if that tells you anything about how excited the Texas State Bobcat fans are, I think that's a good indication. But back to what we're talking about. Yeah, I don't think Alabama's going to have any trouble with Wisconsin. They're just too strong, too fast. As Doug was saying, their defense is too good. But let's talk about the Green Wave and the Crimson and Cream, because I do have that on my books right here for my notes that I take here. I'm still an old-fashioned guy. I write on old notebook paper because I think this is a very interesting game. Now again, Tulane is a 2-touchdown dog. But they played Kansas State to the wire last week. They were up 20-10 at the half and then blew it in the second half. But check this out, guys. And again, this is why I still love being a reporter and not just some guy yapping on a podcast, because I went and did my research. Do you understand that Tulane has a 10-game road winning streak, and that is third in the nation behind who? Georgia and Michigan. So Michigan still has some streak going. They lost their regular season streak and they lost their 23-game winning streak at the Big House. But Michigan and Georgia are only ahead of Tulane, who has a 10-game road winning streak.
Wow.
Okay. Tulane is 24-6 over the last 2 seasons. Okay. And they play good football down there. And Willie Fritz did a lot of, and look how the Willie Fritz team at Houston played Oklahoma last week. And Oklahoma's in. What am I trying to say? Houston was in position to win that game. They could have marched down the field and kicked a field goal, but of course they goofed up there at the end. And Brent Venables has said all the right things this week about the Green Wave. Now, if you look at Oklahoma, they're 2-0, they're undefeated. The offense has not been playing as well as it should, and I know that they want to change that. Jackson Arnold, it was only his 3rd game to start. He's from Denton Ryan, right here in the Metroplex.
Yep.
And but he's going to be good. He's a 5-star. He's going to be great. Of course, he'll be great October 12th when they play Texas. Okay, I know that'll be a fact. But let me tell you something about the Oklahoma defense. And of course, that's where Venables is at his best. Right now, OU is tied in the country for first place in 8 forced fumbles, and that's in 8 forced turnovers in 3 games. 8 forced turnovers and a turnover. Then they lead the nation in a turnover margin of +7. So I think Oklahoma still wins this game, but got to watch out for Tulane, because they're going to be coming at you with all pistols firing, as they say up at Oklahoma State. And again, it could well be a one of those things that they could slip up on the Crimson and Cream.
I won't be surprised. Doug, I want to ask you about another one that's got my attention. Missouri and Boston College. That one's in Columbia, Doug. BC beat up on a struggling Florida State team. Bill O'Brien's pretty damn good coach. What do you think about that one in Columbia?
Well, at first I want to give a public service announcement to the good college football fans, especially the SEC, that as you plan your partying tonight, Friday night, keep in mind, first of all, always do that in moderation and safely, but keep in mind that at 11 a.m. tomorrow, or a little later than that for the Mizzou BC game, you're going to need not a split screen, but a triple screen, because you got Alabama at Wisconsin. You've got LSU at South Carolina. I want to come back to that game in a minute. And then Boston College at Mizzou at 11:45. So you don't want to be dragging and hungover as the day gets going. Those are three of the better games.
Yeah.
But do it. You be you, football fans. I'll tell you, I believe in this Mizzou team, and I've said back before the season began that I will be watching, besides Auburn, especially as a fan, I'll be watching Drinkwitz and Mizzou, because I think Drinkwitz is still young enough, and I'm not trying to steal their coach from them, but somebody, whoever is in the coaching market that's kind of a top 15 brand in football, could probably attract Eli Drinkwitz unless Mizzou really makes some commitments to him on resources and NIL, which they could do, I guess. But I think Boston College, I don't think that was a fluke. I think they're a really well-coached team, and I think Mizzou is going to have a challenge at least for a half to 3/4 in that game. If Mizzou doesn't, if they come out and dominate, Brady Cook looks that good, then I think we need to start talking about Mizzou more.
I would agree with that. I've got Mizzou as one of my 4 playoff teams in the SEC. I've got Ole Miss playing Georgia in Atlanta for the championship. and then Missouri and Alabama as well. And I didn't even put Texas in there. And
What are you
Texas,
smoking over there in Memphis?
well, I'm not being contrarian, but I know but that was my top 4. I didn't say Texas wouldn't make the playoff. I still think we'll have 4, maybe 5 or 6 in the SEC. Guys, let's talk about, and I'll throw it Ken, your thoughts real quick on the LSU South Carolina. Doug's right. You got big noon tomorrow, man. 3 great games. I've got one TV that'll show 4 games simultaneously at the same time. So I will be using that TV and control center. But let's kind of play back and forth, a good tennis match here real fast. Let's talk about that one right there. LSU at South Carolina tomorrow. Who's more desperate?
I think they both are. I mean, I'm not hedging my bet, but I think they both are. I mean, Shane Beamer, you remember in SEC media days, and we talked about this, Rob, when he got up there and took the podium to give his opening statement. I mean, he already looked beat. You know, I mean, he had no enthusiasm. He had no positivity. He looked like a beaten man. And I was very surprised by that because, you know, hope always springs eternal at media days. And he just didn't have good body language. He didn't have, you know, I know you guys are going to pick us last. Well, why would you say that? Okay. And then you look at, remember when he said that? I couldn't believe
he looked like the defeated man. And I was like, don't do that, Shane. You're too optimistic of a guy.
Exactly. And then you look over at LSU. I mean, if LSU, you know, loses this game, which is entirely possible, because South Carolina is very desperate. Brian Kelly's, you know, he's going to be like Bobby Knight and quit pounding the table and start throwing chairs and tables and everything because they are. Yeah. I mean, LSU, you know, is always good, and if they're going to keep struggling like this, I mean, and I like Brian Kelly, and of course he's Mr. Optimism. I love the way he talks. I love the way he carries himself. But I was very surprised on his table pounding antics a couple of weeks ago. That's just not him. So I think that South Carolina could easily beat LSU and really put them in a bind for the rest of the year.
Rob, Doug? I'm not great take, Ken, and I like Ken's radio voice. I know we're on the internet, but Ken's got it. He sounds like he's really been around football, and it's just beautiful. But so keep on keeping on, Ken. I'm not telling you to quit writing. I love your writing too, but you've got a very authentic voice. So keep on keeping on. Rob, I wish Duff were listening in. Maybe he is in the drive, but you heard it here first. LSU will hammer South Carolina tomorrow.
Okay, there we go.
And let me try to back it up. One of the smart plays, I'm not a gambler, but I know people who are pretty good at it, which means pretty good is winning 52% of the time. Yeah. Nobody gets to 70. But the early season, Vegas is wrong. The people who set the lines, they don't have enough sample and data to really know what they're dealing with. And there's some money to be made. There's some fun to be had in the unexpected. So everyone is mesmerized by that 24-point win by South Carolina at Kentucky. I think the story there is we keep trying to prop up Kentucky as they're finally going to play football under Stoops, and we're left wanting more than not. Recently, Stoops had 1 year, if I remember, he might have gotten to 10 wins 1 year. So I'm not trying to cast aspersions on him. That's a tough job to take on football at a place that wants to talk about basketball 24/7, 365. But meanwhile, I think South Carolina is a little inflated coming out of that game, and I think LSU's quietly sitting there, and they didn't even have a perfect game against Nichols. And that Nichols offense, if you hadn't seen it, pull it up on film. It's fun to watch. So I think LSU's licking their wounds from that quality loss to USC. We might be talking about USC as a Big Ten champion before it's over with. So I think that LSU wants to make a statement, and that would be by the time the Space Odyssey theme is barely ended, LSU will get a fast start. Nussmeier has done nothing but impress.
So you think LSU covers then? Is that what you're saying?
I think LSU wins going away, as in 21 plus in that game, and then we're talking. Then we're talking
the Doug Dean lock.
I don't like locks, but if you force me to have one, I guess that would be it.
Lock of the week.
It's dangerous to pick a road team to be a lock, but I'm doing it anyway. And then Rob, Memphis, Chief Osceola, is that his name? Is going to be weeping tomorrow. Memphis is going into Tallahassee and adding more misery to this Florida State season.
Let me throw this one at you. And Doug and Ken, you make great takes. I'm going to say this. It's a market term we use a lot. A stock is kind of trending, shitty looking, and then bam, dead cat bounce. LSU is so pissed off. They're getting dog cussed in the media. They've got to go in there and win. And you can get a false sense of security, a false rally by beating Kentucky, who has an immobile quarterback, Brock Vandegrift. I look for LSU to go in there to make a statement. And I want to say Memphis.
They got better players, Rob.
They do. They got better players. And I just think that they're going to have a breakout game tomorrow. Now, Memphis at Florida State, Mike Norvell, 4 years there, his offensive line coach, Ryan Silverfield, is the head football coach at Memphis. Of the top 10 returning quarterbacks, passing yardage-wise, in college football, 9 of those 10 transferred 1 or 2 times from where they started. The only one that has been at the same school his entire career, started as a 17-year-old, is Memphis quarterback Seth Hennigan, who's a Texas high school product and a coach's son. I like Memphis to go down there. As Gene Deckerhoff, the legendary radio voice of the Florida State Seminoles, will say, in this crowd on their feet at Doak S. Campbell Stadium, Chief Osceola comes out to midfield with the flaming spear in his hands aboard Renegade, and this crowd is on their feet.
Stop. I hate that whole. Stop. Shut up, Rob. Shut up.
Okay. But let me say,
you got to shut up
Memphis,
now. Okay. I've never told you that in my life, but don't ever do that again.
I think your city's going to be dancing in the streets tomorrow. Rob, I'm telling you, Silverfield, look at his pedigree. He coached, he was an assistant, but the Vikings, the Lions, O-line and D-line, he's been around some very high IQ football. And he, as a head coach, he's still making his way, but he's sitting here 33-19. And the places he's coached, I think that's impressive. So I think Memphis rises up and makes a statement against the Florida State team that, the saying, Rob, you got to be careful that you don't let Georgia Tech beat you twice.
Yes.
That's what happened with Florida State in the Boston College game. And that Georgia Tech might beat them 3 times tomorrow.
Yeah. Let me say another cool one at you. And we're going to talk about Georgia and Kentucky here in just a second. That's the truth. Ryan Silverfield, thank you, Dr. Hargrave, our friend, the president of the University of Memphis, who came from Auburn as the provost. He was so kind. I love this man. I said I'd love to have Ryan Silverfield on the show back in early May. The next day I get a text from Ryan Silverfield. Hey, what time do you want me on? I'm like, hey, that doesn't happen every day. He is from Jacksonville, Florida, went to the Bowles Academy and he was coaching when he was 20 years old. He is a very smart coach. It's going to be a fun one to watch. All right, guys, great points being made. Appreciate all of our viewers. Spread the word on this. Let me say something about Georgia at Kentucky, Ken. Mark Stoops, when he made that attempt to go to Texas A&M, and we're going to get to that A&M Florida game in just a second.
Oh, yeah. I've got a lot to say.
Yeah, that was not the optics on that were not good. He came back to Kentucky.
Right.
He's a Youngstown, Ohio guy. He's tough. The DeBartolos are from there. Jim Tressel's from there. And I'm hopefully going to have Coach Tressel on the show soon, former Ohio State coach, sweater vest. God love him. But I want to ask you your thoughts about Georgia at Kentucky. I think Georgia wins going away.
Oh, yeah.
What is Mark Stoops? What's happened to that momentum? Doug is right. Everybody wants to think, okay, Kentucky, here they go. But I think Georgia goes in there tomorrow and we just stepped on their face with a hobnail boot and broke their nose. That's Larry Munson.
But Rob, right now, Georgia looks like a team that tell me any opponent except Texas and maybe Alabama. And we could say the same thing about what Georgia's about to do to whoever they play. So, Ken, go ahead.
It's a dead man walking.
I just wanted to say first, Rob, remember the great president of the University of Memphis has promised us a tour of the campus and to take us out to barbecue. So we will
do it.
And I know he will. So I've got to figure out a way.
Campus when he meets with you. You know why he does that? He said, so I can talk to my students. That's who I'm here for.
I love that.
That's leadership. I love it.
So I got to figure out a way to get out there because I really want to. He was so nice to us when he was on the show that day. And we talked. I love it when you can talk to a university president about barbecue. That's awesome, But anyway, no, I think you're right. I think Georgia just kills them. And I think that was just not a. And of course, that was part of get Olin Buchanan on here. That was also A&M's screw up too with Mark Stoops. They handled that search so poorly. And it was so haphazard. And so I wouldn't put it all on Mark Stoops, but it also, it didn't make him look good. It wasn't a good optics, as you said. And it's not, I don't think the fans have been happy with him since. He looked like he was, he was trying to get a better gig.
Can I pause for a second? This is why I have the greatest executive producer. I love this, Brendan Martin. Look at this. Look at the lines. I mean, you cannot. Thank you. This is awesome. Keep going.
Thank you, Brendan.
Oh, scrolling down there. Beautiful, man, Brandon.
I'm uncomfortable with compliments, so just move on.
No, you're getting them in.
Hey, when we get to Florida A&M, Brendan, I'm going to give you a really big compliment.
Don't
so you
give
just
me
wait.
Anything that's really big, Ken, just saying.
Okay. So anyway, I think Mark Stoops may not be long for that world one way or the other down there in Kentucky, depending on what they do this season. Either he finds a better gig again and he really takes it, or they may move on from Mark Stoops. So, but I don't think Kentucky. I don't give Kentucky much of a fighting chance in this game. And again, what it's all going to boil down to, and we keep saying it. It sounds like an old record, but it really is going to be true. Texas plays Oklahoma on October the 12th, and then October the 19th, Georgia comes to Austin and plays Texas. And those two games are going to be just, global Megatron fight city to determine the SEC championship in many ways, except for the Alabama-Georgia game. So there you have it.
Rob, there's a team, maybe you had covered this on a show that I couldn't catch this week. But there's a team, I think, in the next 2 weeks, we're going to say we should be talking about them more, and that's the Tennessee Vols. Notice how I'm paying homage to your boss, Audrey. Go Vols, Audrey. That this quarterbacks are difference makers, and if you're an Auburn fan and a Florida State fan, a few others, your point of view, and this is mine, is that transfer portal QB miracles are way overrated. If you can figure out a way to talk a talented quarterback into taking the long view, and I realize Quinn Ewers transferred from Ohio State, but it feels like he's been at Texas a long time, and he's into Tuscaloosa and wins that monster game. So, but now you look at Tennessee, Nico, I can't pronounce his last name. But this everything you're looking at, and he will look a week. He will. If you want to be tested by defense, I would start with Brent Venables. So Oklahoma comes to 10. I think it's at not. Is it at? Yeah, no, it's at Oklahoma. I'm wrong. Excuse me.
Next week
it's in Norman. Josh Heupel's homecoming.
Boy, they go to Oklahoma, so that will be a really good test of what this Nico kid's got. And everybody was on Ole Miss, rightly so. We'll see Alabama, Georgia, a couple others, but Tennessee could be the talk of the town if they come out of Oklahoma undefeated.
Isn't Tennessee always the sexy one early, and then they always sort of,
Not unfair.
I mean, that's kind of the story up there. I mean, everyone gets excited about it. So I just think I don't know which I'm getting messages. I can't read from that. I got my Richard Petty glasses on. I can't read that screen over there, Rob.
I can't believe you just said that, Brendan. Okay, I've got to give you my compliment now.
Yeah.
I was going to tell you when I first saw you this morning in your Hollywood Square up there.
Yeah.
I want to compliment you. You look like my favorite race car driver of all time, which is Richard Petty.
The king.
Okay? And that is
you're
a
not a
high
fan of the show.
compliment.
This just shows me that you don't watch the show, and I'm hurt now, Ken, because I love
Okay.
you.
Well,
Because Richard Petty has been guest executive producing all week.
All week long.
Okay.
And I've got a
Celebrate
new
the
hat
king.
coming. I got a new hat coming from Hewlett and Dunn, and we're gonna unbox it next
The
week.
only thing you need in that hat is some feathers now, man. You need some feathers like the king had.
Bro,
But I tell you, you look fantastic. And I've been waiting to tell you this for 55 minutes.
I don't know, like, this is like Manly, Florida. We don't do we're less feathery. We're more like hardcore, like buckle horse stuff. Feather stuff is like that West Coast, tough guy. But
well, here in Texas, we like cowboy hats, okay? But when I first saw you this morning, I said, this is Richard Petty. He was my favorite. Right. I was a NASCAR guy. You look great. You look great.
My dog's got a little dog hair on it. But the Hewlett and Dunn, I just do whatever they tell me to do. That's all I do. Well, you just send me a hat, and I say they know because I have no idea, and I just put it on. And then whatever. This is my shirt's from Hewlett and Dunn. I'm completely decked out in Hewlett and Dunn today.
Amen, brother. Amen.
I need one of those boxes.
Rob, give him my address.
Endorsement deal.
A few things my way. I can be a Hewlett and Dunn fan
too. Charles is supposed to be on here in just a minute. The owner with us, just to say hello and just to say what they got going on out there. Hey, let's ask you this. Okay, so I want to throw another one at y'all. Florida, Texas A&M. Okay, I'll start with Doug and Brendan. We talk a lot about the SEC at night. The Buddy Martin show is Florida. I mean, I've never known this much about Florida in my life. I've always followed that program, but you have the best coverage. GatorBaitMedia.com and the team down there. Doug, why is Texas A&M walking to a trap or not?
Sometimes the smartest thing you can say when it's the truth is, I don't know. This game is tricky because you would think that Texas A&M is maybe a little mentally healthier as a team. I don't mean to put that on Billy Napier, but he's human. When you get under fire like that and it's circle the wagons, that doesn't always add up to playing harder and better and winning.
Yeah.
But Elko, although he's got nothing to worry about on his job security year one, although you have to always keep an eye on those schools with oil money like Texas and A&M. They make their mind up. They can write checks. But Elko kind of went all in on Riley Leonard, pride of Mobile, by the way, and it's sort of backfiring. That cute story about how his mom would text him before games at Duke and say, "You suck." Y'all remember seeing that?
I did not see that.
Now it sounds eerily accurate from mom. For one game in, the NIU game, but it's just so the transfer portal giveth and taketh away. But back to Elko, he really needs to win this one to get. I know that's not what our producer wants to hear, but I probably like Florida because like I said, they're desperate to get a win. And Texas A&M didn't show me anything that terrified me as in terms of offensive capability. So I'll take Florida in a low-scoring victory that honestly probably won't placate all of Gator Nation because they'll look down the rest of the schedule and say, we still got a problem. We're probably replacing our coach at the end of the season anyway.
Well,
Brendan, what do you think? I mean,
here's what I think. I think this is a must-win for Billy Napier, and I think it's a must-win for Texas A&M. I think these programs are in that's an Irish goodbye. Somebody was asking me what an Irish goodbye is. What Rob just did is an Irish goodbye. That's what it is. When you walk off, you say nothing. That's an Irish goodbye. It's okay. Just want everyone to know what that is.
All right, time to go home. Bye.
Bye. See you. Well, hey, I did it last night. I just think that these teams are exactly. It's kind of like the Miami matchup, right? It was like these teams are very equally sort of matched. Less with the coaching and the years and all that kind of stuff, but obviously. But I think as far as these programs need a win. It'd be great for A&M to go on the road and win in the Swamp, and it's doable because I think Billy Napier probably ends up starting Graham Mertz much to his demise because he feels like he has to. And I think that's a credit to his character of who he is and all that stuff. So I think that, I think what we'll see is eventually either Billy's going to break and we'll see Lagway come in, because I think the team struggles with Mertz at the helm. I think everyone's better when DJ Lagway's on the field. I think he makes everyone better. I think you see less time on defense, and I think the game is more manageable. The clock is more manageable. You open up all of your offense. If I watch that, throw again, whatever. I didn't even know how many yards he threw it, but if I've watched those highlights. There it is. He's got his own. When I watch the highlights of DJ Lagway from the game over and over, it's just like you just see a different athlete, and he makes everyone around him better. And I think Rob illustrated it so well this week is that we talked about the locker room, and the locker room is will decide for you who's going to start at the end of the day, because you have, and I think that's what you sort of wait for is public opinion doesn't matter, but public opinion amongst your team per se in that microcosm matters. And I think that community matters. I think you have to start Mertz because everyone's going to be like, he brought you here. He's the grinder. He is starting. There's no question. But I think to appease public opinion and or donors and everything else, you're going to have to see DJ Lagway at some point. And if Mertz goes in, which he tends to do early on, he has a hard time starting. If they go, 3 and out, 4 and out in a couple of series, and we see what's happening in Miami, you better see DJ Lagway and company come on the field.
Have y'all noticed just in this 1 hour show, I think our list of transfer portal QBs failures has reached 7 or 8 already. Peyton Thorne,
8.
Peyton Thorne, Mertz. It's too early for Riley Leonard. He may light it up where he's
too early.
Charles Hall, Brendan Charles Hall, he says he's ready. Hopefully he's going to tap on that.
I see him in there. Yep.
Okay, he's in there. Hey, Doug, I got to tell you, Riley's from, I think, Fairhope, Alabama. And that one's an interesting one. Let's go to Charles Hall. Absolutely love this guy. What a patriot. Him and his wife, Laura, and Raven out there, JM, Lydia. They have the best people you will ever meet in a store. Open Monday through Saturday, 10 a.m. to 6 p.m. Hewlett and Dunn on the historic square in Collierville, Tennessee. You can order online. Call them and ask them you want to order something, hewlettanddunn.com. But, Charles, jump in here. You're an Ole Miss grad. I'm wearing one of these shirts that you've got out there at Hewlett and Dunn, the corners. It's
my whole outfit is from your store, sir.
Yeah, his hat's from your store.
Everything I got on is from you. I love it.
Say hello to everybody, Charles. What's going on out there at the store now?
Your mic is muted.
Take the mute button.
Yeah. There's a little mute button. Your little icon push on the screen. You'll see your mic. It's got a slash through it.
Yeah.
And then just turn that bad boy on. Nope.
You got it.
No, you're almost there. Oh no. Maybe try us back. Come back in and we'll see if that works. Okay.
Yeah. Come back in. We'll try to make it work. Yeah. You'll hit that. Yeah. You can get him through there. But guys, these games, I know, Doug, let's go back for correct purpose. You did pick Missouri to beat Boston College. And I think that's a 9 or 11.
When that game is, I'd have to look. I think Mizzou prevailed.
The line. I think it's 9 or 11.
Oh, don't have it handy. Sorry.
Well, I have it handy. I have a whole crawl for you.
Of course you do.
Of course I do. Yeah.
But Mizzou's obviously the favorite, but I think that's going to be a game that's in doubt early fourth quarter, but I still like Mizzou.
Yeah. There it is. 16.5 also for Alabama up on the peninsula. Florida State versus Memphis. Florida State minus 6.5 over and under 53. That's going to be a fun one. Okay.
Hey, Rob, do you mind if I give my thoughts on the Aggies and the Gators?
Yeah, absolutely. And it's when Charles comes in, we'll just pop in.
Of course.
Keep going. Yeah.
I look forward to talking to him. No, but because I went and did my research on this too, and again, kind of an ironic twist on this game. In 2022, when Florida went to A&M, and beat A&M, that was really a really big win for Billy Napier when he was, just gotten to Florida, and big road win for him. And that was a real slap in the face to our now dearly departed Jimbo Fisher. And now it's kind of the other way around. Just like y'all were saying, if Elko goes in there and beats Florida, that would really be a big feather in his cap early on, and it would just be another, nail in the coffin for Napier.
Yeah,
And but
yeah.
you got to remember, I think Florida wins this game because A&M's road record in the SEC is terrible.
They've lost 10 in a
Absolutely,
row, something like that,
it's
11.
terrible. And they're
Despite all those 5 stars.
Yeah.
well, and again, and Owen Buchanan said it best last week. Putting
Yeah.
up 45 points on McNeese State is nothing to be proud of. I mean, McNeese State, God bless them, they're not a powerhouse. Okay.
Yeah, but you
And
know what? They've got some talent, though. I saw them play last year in the swamp. And they're. I mean, I'm not saying they're not the worst team out there. You know what I mean?
no, not, but they're still McNeese State. Okay.
Yeah.
And so they should put up 45 points on
They
McNeese
should put
State.
more than that. They should put up hang like 65 on them.
Yeah. But
Yeah.
so I think just like y'all are saying, this was in my notes. I think it's a must win for Florida.
Well, I mean, but look at this, guys. This is what bothers me. Florida wins that game against Samford. I mean, Samford, you should win by 60, 70 points.
Yeah.
That 45 is, it's a good win for Florida. You hadn't won in 328 days or some godly amount of times the last time you won a football game. So, it was a win is a win is a win, right? But this is what I hate about the swamp. This is like local swamp knowledge, I think, from going to a lot of games. I hate the afternoon game in the swamp. This game's 3:30. I hate that time in the swamp. It's better than the 11 o'clock we used to do, or some of the noon games or whatever. It's not so much the heat. It's just the swamp at night is like any stadium, but the swamp, especially at night, is really electric.
It's tough.
It's tough at night. It just gets up. It's not as hot. People are ready to go during the day. And I think that's it. They need school, maybe less with the schools with colder weather, and then as obviously time change, that's going to be a later time of day. But I think time of day matters. Look what happened to Florida. South Carolina came in here last year at the end of the season, in November, won that game in the after. That was that 3:30 times. Like, it's just an uncomfortable slot. It's a weird time of day for the ball. Like, it's hard to see. It's a very flat light. It's hot. And I'm just saying Texas is going to be used to hot. There's a lot of that coming in. And I think in the swamp or anything else, like anywhere else, you got to set pace right from the get-go, right from jump. And I think if you are oscillating between two potential quarterbacks and people coming in, I don't think that, as we know well, I don't think that bodes well for your psyche. So, I think that's a lot to ask if, like, hey, by the way, Graham Mertz is, not doing so hot. Hey, go save us, kid. You know what I mean? That is a hard position to be in for, when you didn't have it in week 2. Now, I think if anyone's up for the challenge, I think Lagway would say, hell with it. We're going to go. Because one thing he does, he throws it around and he lets it go. That's what Graham Mertz doesn't want to do. He gets in space and he's still efficient when he's not getting sacked. You know what I mean? Like, he does the things that Mertz can't do.
All right, let me throw this one at you guys. I don't want to ignore it. Doug, Ole Miss, I mean, they've just annihilated their first 2 teams. Roadkill. They got to go to Winston-Salem. This ain't the Wake Forest with Sam Hartman. It's a different Wake Forest, but Clawson, he gets every ounce of whatever his players have out of them. Ole Miss is what, a 21-point favorite? Does Ole Miss cover going away? Because they need to be tested. I think I don't want them to lose, but it wouldn't hurt for them to get down 10-0 and have to come back and win 56-13.
I'd prefer that somebody demanded that I give a lock. I'd probably prefer Ole Miss covering there than the one than LSU. South Carolina's at least shown, when they went to Kentucky and looked very good. And I respect Shane Beamer. He needs players, but I believe in this Ole Miss team. The the hotty-toddy folks, including the Hewlett and Dunn guy, we got to get him back on.
Yeah.
They know what is on that team, and Lane Kiffin. I don't care if it was in the portal. He's gone out and gotten players that can compete at a very high level, and I think this is the first chance they've had to make something of a statement. In a couple of weeks, it starts to get real. They go to South Carolina October 5th and 2 back-to-back road games, South Carolina and LSU. But no, I think at midseason we'll be saying Ole Miss is in it to play for the entire SEC. In the second half of the season, we'll start to separate the pretenders.
I would like to remind everybody that I told you two big things at the end of my two big guesses for college football this year. One, you would see DJ Lagway earlier than we expected, so that's already come true.
Probably this Saturday.
And I said number two. Well, we've already seen him for a whole game. So number two, actually on the first game. So number two, Lane Kiffin will not be. I said he won't be coaching at Ole Miss by the end of the year. That we'll see something. And that all of the rumor mill around here is that it is a done deal that he would come to Florida. I know that's all rumor mill, but everyone's saying there's the money. They've got the $26 million ready to buy him out. That's what I know it's all rumor mill, but
I smell Jimmy Sexton in that rumor mill.
I live in Memphis. I used to work on the 6th floor at Regions Morgan Keegan. Jimmy Sexton was on the 5th floor.
Right, we're going to try Charles.
Let's try Charles again.
Yeah, we're trying Charles again. Charles, are you with us?
Yeah, I'm with you. I apologize.
There you go.
All right, man.
Hey, Charles.
Charles, we were just
it that quickly. So
Charles, Doug Dean, and Birmingham. We were just lavishing praise on Ole Miss that I think they're for real this year, which is just makes me Captain Obvious. Is that the excitement you're seeing in Oxford?
Yeah, I'd say so. I mean, I was there last weekend, and it was pretty lively early on. Of course, the students, I think they're spoiled now. I think they got bored. With Ole Miss winning by so much, and they headed out early. And back when I was in school there, we headed out early because we were losing, and we'd rather be at the Grove. So I guess they're just spoiled nowadays down there.
Well, Charles, I got to tell you, I'll tell people about your store. You've got Barber, Old South. You're the second largest Filson dealer in the Southeast. You've got men's and women's clothing, over 7,000 pairs of boots. But it's like Gunsmoke. When you go in there, there's all the people, the regulars that come in there. It is a family. And you've got, I cannot say enough things about how I love this store. Tell people how they can reach out to you and what you got. Ken's wearing a cowboy hat and buy the products that you got, because you got a store that I've never seen like it. If Matt Dillon was alive, he would be a regular in there along with John Wayne.
Yeah, like I said, we're in Collierville, Tennessee, which is Memphis is just outside of Collierville. Yes, I put it that way for a reason. But we always prefer you to come into the store if you can, because it is a very unique experience. The most common thing we hear from people is we've never seen a store like this, or this is the coolest store. And so we really appreciate those comments. But if you cannot get here, we do have a webpage. It's hewlettdunn.com. And we keep all of our new stuff coming in on there. But we don't have as much on the webpage as we have in the store. But it's constantly growing. Matter of fact, I was late joining this morning because I was trying to get some new product up there. Matter of fact, it's probably up there now, but there's no pictures or descriptions and things. So as soon as I hang up with y'all, I got to jump back on that. But yeah, no, it's really is a great store. I grew up here. I started working here sweeping floors many years ago, back in the 90s, and went away to school and came back and bought into it and bought it out. So it's been a long journey.
Well, that's the cool thing. When you do go in there, there's a lot to see. You got great looking women's clothes, purses and all. And you're open, like I say, Monday through Saturday, 10 a.m. to 6 p.m. After Thanksgiving, Sundays all the way through Christmas. What all stuff you got coming in? What are some of the brands you've just brought in?
Well, we've picked up quite a bit. We went deeper into duck camp this year. We picked them up last year.
Yeah.
Picked up Marshwear this year. Last year was our first year with Barber. People have been asking us to pick up Barber for years and years. Of course, we've had Filson since it was about 08 or so. So we've got a lot of brands that you wouldn't necessarily associate with a Western store. So the best way I can describe it is we're more of a boot store. And then the clothing is more of, Southern outdoor gentleman type clothing. So less Western clothing than you would expect. A lot better brands than you would see in most of your Western stores.
Charles, what is your biggest selling men's cowboy boot these days?
Best-selling brand is going to be Anderson Bean. Anderson Bean is out of Mercedes, Texas. They're handmade down there, and it's a really good, hardy cowboy boot. I mean, this is a boot that you can go out and work in if you wanted to, but most people, I'd say, that get it for the casual wear because they are so comfortable.
Yeah, and the other thing, Charles, one more. When you're trying to buy a pair of boots, you know how to fit them, and also you know how to restore boots. I've never seen any place that can do what y'all do on that side.
Yeah, so fitting is the most important thing. I mean, you can have the best boot in the world, and if it's ill-fitted, it's not going to be comfortable. So generally speaking, when you hear somebody say, "Oh, boots are so uncomfortable," it's because they're not wearing the right size. And so we do it the old-fashioned way. We have you take a seat, put your foot on the Brannick device, and check your arch length, and go from there. Because fitting with people starts in childhood when their mother takes them to the shoe store. She pushes down their toe, says, "Where's your toe?" And from that point forward, you're wrong. It's not about your toe length because we're not wearing moccasins anymore. We're wearing shoes and boots. Yeah. So it's about your arch and where your arch is landing. So get somebody fitted and they'll be comfortable no matter if it's in a lesser boot or a better boot. And then as far as boot repairs, it's a dying art. No one does repairs these days. People don't want to work with their hands, and so there's not many repairmen left around, or at least certainly not very many competent ones. And we've got two that we work with. So we have a local guy, and then we have someone down in Mobile, Alabama that will ship boots to. So no matter what the repair you need, we can get you taken care of.
Well, and the other thing, the turtle box. I've got my turtle box right here. Folks, this is the greatest music box ever made, and you can get these at Hewlett and Dunn. So, Charles, look, thank you so much for taking time to join us. What's the phone number they want to call and set up a time to come in there? So you're there, or Raven, or Lydia, or JM, or Laura, because y'all are hands-on as good as it gets.
Yep, you can call us at 901-853-2636. And we'll help you as best as we can.
Or you can click the QR code right on the screen. That's also in the YouTube chat. There's a link. Click on that. It takes you right to your website, and you guys can find out information there.
Yeah. Charles, have a great day. We will see you soon. Thank you so much.
Thank you,
do it
Rob.
again very soon.
I appreciate it. Good talking with y'all.
See ya. Thanks for the hats are great, Dank. I love it.
Great. Thank you. Take care.
All right.
You bet. Bye. You got to have a hat that fits. All right, guys, kind of scramble here. My take on Ole Miss is, like Doug said about Jimmy Sexton, I don't think people understand the 15 attorneys led by Dickie Scruggs, the lead. His take was $700 million on the tobacco settlements. There were 14 other attorneys. I know this because my attorney, rest his soul, worked in Oxford, and there was one couple next to him. Their payoff was $360 million, and they had $2 million a month coming in for 15 years. Do the math. $360 million. They've got a boatload of money, and they stopped the $350 million construction project on the football stadium at Ole Miss about 2 years ago. Yancey Porter told us about. They've got a Grove Collective down there, folks. Say what you want about Mississippi. It ain't a big state, but there's a lot of money in that state, and man, they've got a great law school, top 3 or 4 accounting school in the country, and they've gotten a taste of what it's like to win 11 games. Good luck. I'll say this. I think Lane Kiffin this year, they make the playoff. I don't know. Florida's a great job. I mean, they'll get them a coach if they make a change. But I think Lane Kiffin stays at Ole Miss. That's just my take. But Give me y'all's biggest upset you think's going to happen. I'll start with Doug and then go to Ken. biggest upset for this weekend that you see in the SEC potentially, or it may be outside of the comfort zone of the Southeastern Conference?
Go ahead, give me
fire
your
away.
lock. I want the Doug Dean lock of the week.
But are you limiting us to the SEC on that?
No,
Rob?
it could be anywhere.
Well, we got to have
I-
both. I want your lock for the SEC since we're the SEC show, and then I want if you have another one, then I want that.
Yeah, let me hasten to say your listeners can do much better than me on deciding what to spend a buck on. I do like Memphis to go into Tallahassee, and if you want to think of that as a shocker, it's a 2-loss team that's kind of reeling. Tell me the time. Do you happen to know, Rob? Memphis, Florida State, the time of that game?
Golly,
That's all right. I'll find it.
Thought it was.
If it's night in Tallahassee,
Trouble.
A very well, it should be, but a very important thing to keep an eye on is how engaged still are Seminole fans. I think they will be. Night game, they want to get back on track, but it's not a big marquee name like from the SEC coming into
11 a.m., 12 Eastern.
Yeah, so that to me makes me even more confident that Memphis can pull the upset. I like underdogs on the road when it's a breakfast game. So give me that one. That is I'm really interested in that game because I think the Memphis coach is one that you should keep an eye on for even bigger.
We talked to him yesterday.
Yeah, bigger opportunities down the road. And then in the SEC, I don't see what would be considered a shocker upset. I think if LSU covers, that's a little bit surprising because everybody's got so much love for South Carolina after what they did to Kentucky.
Yeah.
But I think it's going to be last week was the weird Saturday with Notre Dame and Auburn getting embarrassed. I don't know that we have. Somebody will have a shocker. It's not jumping off the page at me right now. I think it's mostly chalk.
No,
tomorrow.
I think you really that's the game I'm hearing, Doug. Mostly is that's the best, for gambling purposes and everything else. That's the game everyone's looking for.
What, LSU game or Memphis?
No, the Memphis Florida State game.
Yeah.
Because it covers a small 6.5 spread, good value. What else they were reading compared to larger spreads. The matchup is a nice combination of potential safety and reasonable odds, making it a strong pick for the week. So I think that's a smart pick for the week.
Hey, Doug, I know you got to get going, but I like the 11 a.m. road game. It favors the visiting team because the other team's fans don't get there till late first, second quarter. You jump on top 14-0. You suck the life out of there real fast, and there's already a lot of negative karma down there.
You're in Tallahassee anyways, and those fans are terrible. They want to show up. They scatter like cockroaches.
Rob, I opened my mouth with all my love for Vanderbilt in that, and they pulled the big one up against Vatech.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna stay on that train, and I don't think Georgia State gives them any trouble, although it's at Georgia State. But I think Vanderbilt, because of that quarterback and the energy and confidence, he's a poor man's Johnny Football. He said that himself. So I'm gonna ride Vanderbilt until there is no horse left to ride.
Go Doors, Doug. Thank you so much, man. That was awesome. Diego.
Hey, you guys have a great weekend. Everybody be safe. Have fun weekend.
All right,
Bye,
we'll see
Doug.
you next week. Thank you.
Chairman of the board, Doug Dean.
Ken, let's get your thoughts on that. That Vandy at Georgia State in Atlanta. Dell McGee played at Baker High School in Columbus, Georgia, the Bi-Cities. Played at Auburn, been coaching and had multiple state champions at Carver High School in Columbus, Georgia. Then went over to University of Georgia as running game coordinator. Unbelievable recruiter. Now he's got Damian Craig on that staff at Georgia State in Atlanta. They play in old Atlanta Filthy County Stadium, they called it. That's going to be one to watch on there. But Ken kind of bounced. And Brendan, I love these lines being under here. And I take the blame for that. I should have had all these on here. But I do love seeing that. But Ken, give us your kind of bounce around here before we wrap it up.
Sure. Well, I'm not a betting man. I'm still trying to save for a 14-year-old's college fund. So I don't worry about lines and things like that. I do think about every time y'all talk about Vandy, I always think about Bo Carter and he's up near the Oklahoma border, just partying away with his Vandy flag out on his porch, and anchors down, baby. But yeah, like
Bo
Doug
was
said,
on with us yesterday, by the way.
I know. I talk to him all the time. Uh, but anyway, like Doug said, I don't see a big upset in the SEC this week at all. Like we talked about, upset alerts with Oklahoma and Texas. But I think that the Green Wave could stand a chance against Oklahoma. But again, Oklahoma's at home. Um, again, I still think South Carolina is going to win that game. And outside of that, I mean, I really don't pay that much attention. I look at the Big Ten. I don't see any big upsets there. The Big 12. I tell you, the Big 12 is just not very interesting without Texas and Oklahoma. To be real honest with you,
Yeah,
and
you're right.
it really isn't. I
It
mean.
isn't.
I'm not trying to be rude to the Big 12 because I mean they're right here in the Metroplex over in Irving, but God, they've just
boring.
people just lost a lot of interest in what they're doing. I mean,
They didn't have a lot of interest. I mean, let's be honest. The Big 12's dying. It was dying for a while. I just don't think people are interested. I mean, living out in Colorado as long as I did, you just didn't talk about. We talked about NFL. We talked about Broncos. We talked about we just didn't talk. We didn't care. What are we going to talk? Ooh, CSU this week. Like, okay, if you went to school there, you went to the game, but otherwise, no one cared.
Brendan's making a point, and I hate that. I mean, something good will happen. I hope it does for their sake. But the SEC sure is even more interesting, bringing in Oklahoma and Texas. And I'm telling you, I can't imagine what the ticket prices are going to be like. Florida's going to be a big deal because they're Florida. I mean, it's like undisclosed pictures of Marilyn Monroe in a bikini at the beach 60 years later. People still are going to pay for that. Yeah. Florida's got 3 national championships here in the last 30 years. They've done a lot. And then you look at this. I go back Oklahoma. I mean, that's a sexy program. But I did feel like Texas better prepared coming into the league to have immediate success, and Oklahoma losing their quarterback Dylan Gabriel to Oregon and then having to replace the entire offensive line. That's just a tough ask. But I tell you, this A&M Florida game, I haven't seen a freshman quarterback look like DJ Lagway in memory. Now look, he's a freshman. He's gonna take his licks. He's going to learn.
He's got to play.
I'd rather have a guy like that to learn with than somebody else.
But he's got to be in the game.
Exactly.
So
he can't help you on the bench.
He can't help you on the bench. So, hey, as we wrap it up, we've got these. We're going to rip through these really fast. So, by the way, if you're looking for the best game to bet on in the SEC this week, it's actually Florida A&M because Florida's favored. If you're looking at, I'm just reading what I read online and the summary of stuff, but that's the best bet because, if you win, that's going to be your best game because if A&M wins, then Florida doesn't cover. I mean, A&M could, we don't know. A&M could walk in here and just stomp them. Like, that's what we don't know right now. Miami came in here and stomped them. A&M could just wake up and come here and stomp them. They have plenty of talent. It's not like they don't have the ability to do that. Yeah, it's not like they got a lot of really good talent on that football team. A lot of they pay for it, and it's there. And that you don't know when they're going to pull the string. Same with Florida, but I just think I don't know. All right, here we go. So I'm just listening. My number one is Kansas versus UNLV. Rob, are you even going to care about this, or we're going to go?
I'm taking Kansas. I like Lance Leipold and the Fighting Leipolds.
9.5 for Kansas laying down. Ken.
Yeah, Kansas.
All right, K-State, Arizona. Lines at 7.5 for Kansas State.
Arizona.
By the way, I've lived in the Little Apple of Manhattan in Kansas, so that's a good school. By the way, it's a cool school. They're serious about football there.
What school in America? What team has the longest active winning streak in college football?
I don't know.
Arizona.
Oh, okay. Well, there you go. But they
don't have Jed Fish anymore. I'll have to say that.
Yeah, I mean the Sun Devils, right? Jake Plummer.
They're the Wildcats.
Are they? No,
Arizona's the Wildcats.
Oh, it's Sun Devil. Oh, I don't know. It's all hot there. Who cares? All right, moving on. Alabama versus Wisconsin. Obviously, Bama's laying 16.5. So, you guys, who do you got?
My pick's Bama 31-14, Ken. So I'm barely covering.
Yeah, it's 16.5, Ken.
Yeah, Bama.
Okay, Florida State versus Memphis. It's at 6.5 right now.
I'm going to take Memphis. I'll take a good quarterback in an 11 a.m., 12 Eastern road game, 8 days a week.
Yeah,
I hate to agree with Rob, but Memphis.
Yeah, I'm going with Memphis too. We're going to give them a little bit of the SEC sideline sports karma because they were on the show this week. So there you go.
Memphis and the barbecue.
Like they were on the show. We're giving them some karma. They'll come back next week. LSU versus South Carolina. The line to LSU 6.5. Rob,
I like LSU in a desperate road win.
Okay, Ken?
South Carolina.
Yeah, I like South Carolina. Michigan versus Arkansas State. Lines, Michigan's 22.5. Does Michigan rebound?
Yes.
Yes. Yeah, Michigan too. NC State at Louisiana Tech, 21.5 there.
Yeah.
I got NC State.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're all NC State there. Let's see. These games don't matter. Illinois, Central Michigan don't care. Cincinnati, Miami. So Oklahoma State versus Tulsa.
Oh yeah, Oklahoma State. Go Pokes.
Yep. Go Pokes. Yeah, I got
go
that.
Bullet Man.
Yeah, 18.5. That's a big. But Tulsa's awful. Texas Tech. I'm doing all the Texas team because Ken's here. Texas Tech versus North Texas.
Oh, Texas Tech.
Of course. Yeah. Okay. Here we go. Now this Missouri-Boston game I think is interesting. Boston College. Remember the strength and conditioning coach at Boston College was at Florida at the beginning of the summer and then left the program after 2 weeks and then went up there. Missouri-Boston College. What do you got, Rob?
I got Mizzou, man. M-I-Z.
Yeah, I don't think Ken.
Yeah, M-I-Z. Great journalism program too.
No, they do. The best in the country, actually.
No, that's Northwestern, where I went.
Is it still? No, get out of here with your Northwestern. You're so weird.
Only here would you have a debate about that. I love
it. I'm good. All right, but they're both fantastic. Neither one I could get into. Buffalo versus I don't even care about that game. Don't care about that game. Okay, Notre Dame's going to go to Purdue or versus Purdue. Can the Domers bring it back? 9.5.
Oh yeah.
Rob, Purdue, Purdue's that team that doesn't, all the sudden the end of the year, you're like, Purdue's in the top 10. Like, where did they come from? Yeah.
Like
I love that game though. The battle for Indiana.
Yeah. That was good.
I don't see Notre Dame having back-to-back disaster games. Riley Leonard's due for a good game because he's had two very average games up to this point.
Yeah.
Average to bad.
Here's the big one. Florida, Texas A&M in the swamp, 3:30. Gonna be hot. Gonna be maybe rainy. It's very rainy today. Florida is laying 3.5 at home. We don't know who's starting. By the way, not releasing depth charts for the first time in the history of time. We're not getting depth charts this week. Only who's hurt. So we don't know. We don't really know who's starting, but we know Graham Mertz is not on the availability list is what they're calling it. It's the availability list. No longer the depth charts availability list. Rob, who do you got?
I got A&M to cover, and their line of scrimmage, offensive and defensive lines are just too damn good. As many players as left, they still had the number 2 portal class in the country last year, right after Ole Miss. I want Florida to win for Brendan's sake, but I like the line of scrimmage, and that's what this league's all about. It's just, the road team in this game, I think, covers.
Yeah. Ken?
Napier's more desperate than Elko, Florida.
Yeah, I got Florida to win this and cover. I think Florida wakes up. I think you got to play Lagway. I don't think you can't. I think you're going to have to see him, and I think he's going to find a way to get him in. And I think Florida wins, and it's a big win. Turns the season around. Please God, win. Billy Napier, if you're listening to me, Billy. Billy.
Yeah.
Start EJ Lagway. I know it's bad. It looks bad, but come on, brother. Just one time. I like winning. Okay. All right. I'm done.
Just, what you got to do? You got to say, hey, man, trust me on this one. I'm going with my instincts. And so, look, if Lagway starts this game,
they'll go nuts. If he comes out there with the ones, the swamp would go nuts. It would set just to do that. They would go nuts. That would just set a precedence. It's exactly what you need.
Yeah. If Lagway starts If Lagway starts and plays most of the snaps,
Race would go
I'm
now.
probably going to be wrong, and Florida wins going, by like 10 points. But
Yeah, I think if Lagway wins it, so I think Florida.
He's that good a player. He is. You know it when you see it, Ken.
Chris Leak and Tim Tebow had a baby. His name is TJ Lagway.
Oh my God. Hey, all right, we'll wrap it up, man. Long day on Friday. We got all weekend. Watch this show. Tell your friends, support all of our great sponsors like houseindustriesinc.com. We are so blessed. Tom Martin's Body Shop, Matei's Garage. We live in the greatest country in the history of the world. Most often we see the face of Christ in the least among us. Don't ever forget to take the opportunity to help other people, man. You may think you got problems.
Don't suck.
Yeah. Go out and do
Don't
something great.
suck.
And have a great weekend. Brendan, unbelievable job today. Ken, Doug, Frank, Jason, God bless America.
I have something for you both. Go Gators.
Go Gators. Hook them. War Eagle.
Yeah, I can't. Hook them. I can't do that yet. We're going to.
All right. Thank y'all for watching.
Thanks, Ken. Love you. See you guys. We'll see you
next
week.
Thank you so much, Ken.
Bye.
We love having you on here always. Love you.
In a perfect world, you'd set a health goal and results would happen overnight. In this world, the real world, it takes time, dedication, and the right support to achieve your best self. The Vitamin Shop's health enthusiasts are here to make sure you're not wasting a single moment on the wrong supplements. From the highest quality sports nutrition and superfoods to the most sought after trends, you'll find a huge variety of science-backed solutions for every goal. And the people to help guide you along the path to greatness.
Unbelievably, every 2 minutes in our communities, a child is either bought or sold for sex. I am R.A. Dickey, board member for the Nashville Anti-Human Trafficking Coalition. Join me and millions of others in our fight against human trafficking and for its victims by helping to educate the most vulnerable among us, our middle and high school students. Go to nhtcoalition.org, become a partner, and help keep our families safe, because none of God's children are for sale.